Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Camille Ivy O'Donnell, and I'm a board member of the Louisiana Women Lead. And just to give you all some quick background on the organization, Louisiana Women Lead was formed in 2020 to engage more center-right women in politics. Lead's goal is to increase the number of women elected or appointed to leadership positions in Louisiana by breaking down barriers, creating a statewide network, and providing tools to give women the leg up when running for office. So, as we continue our celebration of Women's History Month, I'm excited to kick off our second candidate interview with Chelsea Ardoin. So, I will now give you the screen. Chelsea, why don't you give us an introduction, your background, and then we can jump into questions.
Absolutely. I'm Chelsea Ardoin, running for Congress in the 2nd District. For now, I'll just tell you I have 2 degrees, one from LSU in kinesiology and my MBA from the University of New Orleans. I also have my HR certification from SHRM, and I work for Entergy Corporation in New Orleans, where I'm in the HR department as the benefits project manager, but spent several years working in the healthcare industry before that. So that's a brief.
Awesome. I tried to do kinesiology, but it didn't work out very well for me. I lasted through about one biology class. So, first question, tell us about that moment when you first thought about running for office.
Well, I've known I was going to be in public service since I was 15 years old, actually, and I dedicate that moment to former Senator Willie Mount. At that time, she had, taken quite a bit of time for a 15-year-old to interview her and ask certain questions, and I was just all encompassed and overwhelmed by her service and all that she had done in the community. And so that's where I decided, really, that's where I'm meant to be. And ever since I was 15 years old, I've been waiting for that moment. So here for the 2nd Congressional District in Congress, we currently do not have any women representation at all, which obviously does not adequately represent our state, our nation, or anything in between. So I saw a gap that needed to be filled and decided that, now is the time, and there's no more time really to wait, that it's time to step up and no more time to sit back and watch. So I decided to go ahead and run for the 2nd Congressional District. And obviously there's another gap, which is my generation. There's quite a mess, I don't know if you've noticed, that is expected for my generation to clean up, such as our national debt and budget crisis and everything else coming for climate. And it's really up to my generation to fix that. And so I believe that we need to, if nothing else, at least be starting the conversation with my generation. So a gap that absolutely needs to be filled.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so real quick, I want to jump into initial responses that you received from your friends and family, and the powers that be, the guys gathered around the Chevron station in the morning, what their plans kind of looked like for you, and like I said, those reactions.
So in general, I do believe it's appropriate for political parties to support their incumbent candidates. This office does not have an incumbent candidate, so that was nice. But we do have other big names that are current senators running for this office. I do believe that, the parties should support those individuals that have been in candidacy and public service for many years. That's just the way, we do want to support those that are already out there, but we also want to open up the field for new ideas and new political discussion and fresh new voices into that political discussion. So ultimately, it's disappointing, but not too surprising, that 2 major political parties either searched out preferred candidates or for the open seats, or endorsed preferred party candidates to the detriment of any other candidate wanting to run. This sends a terrible message to candidates like me and others, dozens of others that are trying to get into the race, but are kind of pushed out and getting unfair treatment. So in my case, the party executive committee endorsed one candidate before any other candidate had a chance to make a presentation. And was it because I was a woman? Was it because I was single? Or because I was Caucasian running in a primarily Black district? We won't ever have that answer. But what we need to know is that we don't encourage young female voters to get involved or to ever consider running when the party leadership picks winners and losers before the game even starts. And that's one reason I'm excited about this organization and what it can do to a new generation of female leaders. And hopefully we can lift each other up instead of always, kind of pushing everyone to the side just because they are unknown. We've got to start somewhere. And I think we really need to lift people up into public service and not push them out of it.
Absolutely. Did you feel that lift up from your community, your family, your friends? Did you feel that, or did you kind of have some naysayers along at least the beginning of the road, right? I know you're still on it.
Family and friends have been absolutely wonderful. Unfortunately, they don't live in my district, so it makes things a little bit difficult there. So I have primarily leaned on the Republican Party in my district, and they are not always ready to give assistance. But I would definitely advise anyone to reach out to as many resources and training opportunities as you can, and definitely gather that group of community and friends and family. And the larger your support team, the better. And especially in this time of COVID, really, word of mouth is what's key in this race. And we're really, just trying to get that word out, introduce myself to as many people as I possibly can.
Awesome. So you talked about your initial moment at 15, getting into politics, right? And obviously we've mentioned being lifted up. Do you have any sort of like mentoring that you do personally to anyone in the community, or how do you live this value, I guess, of lifting other people up?
Every day, every moment. To me, it's one day at a time, one life at a time. I'm always looking for ways that I can, show those, even the smallest little gestures that really help people get through the day. Sometimes it's only that one little smile that somebody needed just to get through the day. And during COVID now more than ever, we need those little things that just kind of keep us moving. So my mentorship and support around the community is really, those little things that people don't pay attention to, that to me are so much larger than you actually think they are. I'm a big support for mental health and a large mental health advocate with my healthcare background. Obviously, I'm always looking to those little ways to just build people up as a whole. And really, I have the philosophy of one day at a time, one life at a time. And if we make a difference in one life today, that's, it's a big snowball effect, right? You never know what that could actually cause for the future. I'm certain Willie Mount had no idea that she had done such an impact on my life by spending that 1 hour with a 15-year-old interviewing her such a long time ago.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, so I know you've mentioned a few barriers, but what's really been the biggest challenge or barrier, and how have you either continued to overcome it? What does that barrier look like?
So I would say definitely, the party had already made up its mind, and I was encouraged by people close to the party leadership at least twice to quit or to run a low-key campaign for their candidate to do a better position, be in a better position and have better turnout. I was also encouraged early in the campaign to agree to endorse the party's nominee if he or she had made the runoff, no matter what his or her positions were. Really, I'm not party over philosophy, and no way. I will definitely be looking at the policies and platforms before I endorse anyone. I don't believe that we should even truly be looking at the ballot as a Republican, Democrat, as the candidate of a whole. We really need to always be looking at the issues, policies, and platforms before we cast our ballot. And I definitely won't agree to endorse anyone simply because they're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or anything in between.
Yeah. So what are some of your policies that you believe in strongly? What's your platform?
Absolutely. So definitely congressional term limits is a big one for me. Also, fiscal responsibility. We have a $30 trillion debt that we expect our children and grandchildren to pay. And we also run an unbalanced budget. So my big aspect is to pass an amendment that would be a fiscally responsible, transparent, and balanced budget. We should definitely see where our tax dollars are going and address that $30 trillion debt before we implement any new taxes. So that's really a large one for me for our area. Gulf Coast protection and infrastructure for flooding back home is big here, and I would love to show support in those areas as well. But budget and congressional term limits are definitely my largest buckets, if you will.
Yeah. All right. So, what advice would you give someone running for office at any level?
I'd say run, do it, stand up, just do it. It doesn't matter, how many people are trying to, hold you back. Take advantage of all advice and resources that you can possibly grab onto and hold on tight to those people. That's really what's going to get you through. It's people like you, Camille, that, are supporting us along the way. And I totally believe in the power of women empowering other women. I believe that's where we can really change the world. And it's time that we bring, that power out of the shadow and into the light. And ultimately, we really need to, try to find a balance between representing and leading, because I believe you must do both. And there's a very huge difference. So that would be my greatest advice, is definitely run anyway, take advice, take all the resources, and make sure that you're knowing the barrier and balance between being a leader and a representative.
Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we close out?
Vote. It doesn't matter if you vote for me. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Just get out there and use that one voice that we do have in this nation, which is casting your ballot on March 20th in the special election. But you will find me, number 1 on the ballot, Chelsea Ardoin, for the 2nd Congressional District. Also, you can see my website, chelseaardoin.com, and feel free to donate. More the merrier there. And Facebook is facebook.com/Chelsea Ardoin campaign. And I definitely appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity to share a little bit about myself and my platform and how we got here today. And really, if I can be a role model to one other person from my generation, one other female to stand up, then to me, we've won. We've won.
Yeah, awesome. No, and I want to check real quick before we completely close out. If we've got any additional questions, I need to see if I can pull those up in the chat. If anybody has any, y'all can post them. And let's see. What's been your favorite part of campaigning so far? Kind of like walking the streets or phone calls with candidates as I look for these questions?
So definitely not necessarily doing so much, walking the streets. COVID.
Right.
Right. I live in New Orleans, which is a very different environment here during COVID versus, other cities throughout the state. And that we're hardcore on our masks and not going too many places in public. I've actually been working from home with energy since March 16th. 2020, and we will be until at least June 1st. So we're very careful with the COVID situation. It's been lots of phone calls. Our debates have mostly been Zoom debates. We actually had our first in-panel discussion this past weekend over at Dillard University, which was a lot of fun. That was probably one of my favorites, getting to speak to students, because I wasn't there very long ago. And so you know what they're really interested in hearing, and that's a critical point in your life of what am I going to be, what am I going to do for the rest of my life, and really just to speak to someone that's been there recently and know that you will get through it, and there are things to overcome, but ultimately you figure out who you are in this time. And so it was wonderful to speak to individuals at that point in their life.
Awesome. Well, we just got one question that flashed across, and so I'm going to give just a little spiel about Louisiana Women Lead one more time, and then I'll let you close out again so everyone can, if they didn't have a pen, they can write down your information. But just again, Louisiana Women Lead was formed in 2020 to engage more center-right women in politics And LEAD's goal is to increase the number of women elected or appointed to those leadership positions and really provide women the tools that they need when running for office. And so, like I said, just wanted to give you another opportunity to list your Facebook link and how people can learn more. And then again, just the dates and where you are on the ballot and how someone can figure out if they actually are in your district.
Right. Absolutely. So my Facebook is facebook.com/Chelsea Ardoin campaign. You'll find a map of the 2nd district there to know if you are in my district. I'm also a big supporter of the Go Vote app. It makes things quite easy to figure out which districts you're in. So go ahead and download that. My website as well is chelseaardoin.com. I do have a few comments that I can read off if that's okay with you outside of just social media. But ultimately, this is who I am and what I'm looking to do. If you were not affected by the political climate of the past year, then ultimately you weren't paying attention. And if there were ever a time when the public is fed up with politics and politicians, now is that time. But now more than ever, that means we need fresh new voices to rise up and offer real solutions, not partisan solutions. I've been specific about my platform, congressional term limits, and a balanced, transparent, fiscally responsible budget. And members of Congress should not get any preferential treatment not offered to every citizen in this country. And I'll make that pledge right now and challenge all the other candidates to do the same. Won't accept congressional health care because it's at a different level than all U.S. citizens are accessible to. So I'll fight for a balanced budget, and I won't support any new tax increases until and unless we address our $30 trillion debt expected to be paid by our children and grandchildren. I'm not here to tell you I have all the answers, though, either. But I certainly do not believe government has them. In fact, outside of protecting our citizens, government has few answers that can't be better addressed by untethered free enterprise entrepreneurs in business and the caring, resourceful people in our communities, our religious communities. We need businessmen and women, young and young at heart, religious leaders, Republicans, Democrats, independents, all alike, working together to help heal our country, heal our state, and heal our communities. And if there was ever a candidate willing to take on that challenge, I am that candidate. If someone tells you a young Republican woman can't win in this race, do them all a favor and tell them Chelsea can. I'm Chelsea Ardoin, and thank you for your time and opportunity to introduce myself today.
Awesome. I love that. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Renee Amar, our fearless leader, for hosting us in this chat with Chelsea. And for everyone watching, make sure you tune in for the rest of our conversations this week and the great programming we have lined up for the rest of the year. Hope y'all have a great Tuesday.
Absolutely. March 6th, go vote.
Yes.